The recent 616 team-up book following Peter Parker and Miles Morales, written by Weisman, has done the unthinkable. Peter and Gwen are married, and they have kids? It's been well known for a while that Marvel are very much riding the line between bringing Gwen back to life and trying to keep her as a figure of Peter's past. But with this recent issue of Spectacular Spider-Man, they are really pushing it. Why won't Marvel stop obsessing over Gwen? And how is it affecting the character as a whole? Let's talk about it. But before we do get into that, if you are new around here, I want to urge you guys to subscribe to the channel, join the best Spider-Man community in the world, and join me on my journey to try and get through to Marvel editorial that they need to make changes to the Amazing Spider-Man book. Let's do it. Let's try and get to 30,000 subscribers. I'd really love if we could get there. With that said, let's get straight into this. For some context, if you're not caught up, essentially Weisman's Spectacular Spider-Man is a comic series following Peter and Miles teaming up. Currently, they are trying to uncover the mystery as to why certain people around the ESU campus keep going missing. We also know that long-term Spider-Man villain the Jackal is also involved in this somehow. That's pretty much all you really need to know at this point in time. And then we move on to issue 3. It opens up with panels cutting back and forth between Miles and Peter talking about going on a date. When they both open the door, on the Peter side of things, it's Captain George Stacy, who has come to have a date with Aunt May, and on Miles' side, it's Kamala Khan, who has come to have a date with Miles. As weird as that sounds, it gets weirder. Not only is this happening in real time as far as the audience is concerned, Peter is with Gwen. Huh? As we follow this issue through, we learn more about Gwen and Peter's life. They are both happily married, and it turns out Aunt May has started dating Gwen's dad because they're both lonely people who lost their significant others. Gwen and Peter also have 2 kids, Helen and Benny. Helen obviously being a reference to Gwen's mother, and Benny being a reference to Uncle Ben. On the Miles side of things, we follow him on a date with Kamala Khan. But for the sake of this video, I'm mainly just going to talk about the Peter and Gwen stuff, as it kind of relates more to what I want to talk about. But just know that as Peter and Gwen's story unfolds in this issue, Miles' story is also happening alongside it as well. So not only do they show us their kids, they really try to show us how much Peter loves them. We get multiple panels of Peter playing with them, and it's really sweet. This happens all the way up to the end of the book, when it's revealed that Peter and Miles are actually stuck in a trance-like state by villains that call themselves Arcadium, to try and get a hold of their secret identities. Basically, the way that they do this is that they forcefully get them to live out their best lives in order to try and capture their secret identities. Now, this brings up a few problems that I'd like to discuss in this issue. First and foremost, I still really like this book. I just want to mention that I think it's fun, engaging, and something a little different, and it's definitely better than the Amazing Spider-Man run by Zeb Wells. It's not meant to be taken seriously, and is a very light read. However, them bringing Gwen back has multiple implications for the character. It almost feels like this whole Miles and Peter living out their best lives came about because they wanted to force Gwen back into Spider-Man books again. Not only that, as I mentioned earlier, they make an absolute point out of making sure the audience, me and you, know that Peter and Gwen have kids and they're a massive, big, loving, happy family. And I think this cements a massive problem that Spider-Man has in his current comic books. They are too scared to move on from the past. The main 616 ASM books are more at fault for this kind of storytelling, but it's been well known for a while that whenever 616 Spider-Man has an opportunity to link back or even retell old stories with characters that have been severely overused, they will do it. For example, them retreading Green Goblin again in the current ASM run. A few months ago, they also tried to do a reverse Kraven's Last Hunt. But probably the biggest example of this by Zeb Wells in the current run is Judgment Day. Despite it being his best book in his ASM run, it's clear that the only reason Spider-Man was included within the Judgment Day event in Marvel Comics was because they saw an opportunity to bring back Gwen Stacy. And the exact same thing can be said about this comic book as well. Marvel are hanging on to Gwen Stacy for dear life, and they will not let go because she is a character that fans love from the past. But the one thing that Marvel doesn't realize is that the fans actually want to move on, and they want the writers and Marvel Comics in general to tell new and interesting stories with Spider-Man. Yes, of course, including Gwen Stacy in a story is always going to boost sales. It's always going to boost engagement and interest because it's Gwen Stacy. She is one of the most popular comic book characters of of all time and holds one of the biggest purposes through her death of all time in comic books in general. But after everything is settled and they go back to normal, they still try and tell really disinteresting stories. And it's like, just move the character on, man. Bringing back characters like Green Goblin and Gwen Stacy isn't the answer to sales dipping in Spider-Man books. Hell, better stories. They are constantly reminding us in every single story that Gwen is Peter's one and true love. Not only that, like I mentioned, this accentuates the issues that Marvel has with Spider-Man in the 616 universe currently. And also, shouldn't this be Mary Jane and not Gwen Stacy? I get that Gwen is Peter's first love, but Mary Jane has been around for longer. And if this is Peter's perfect life, surely Mary Jane is the one that he's married to. They have been pandering over each other for so long, and Marvel make it very clear that Peter and MJ are the power couple of their brand. Except when you're 616, apparently. And I'm not gonna lie, this kind of puts the nail in the coffin for me on Peter and MJ ever getting back together again and it being believable. Nick Spencer made it his mission when he did his run on the character to make sure that MJ and Peter would be back together forever. But since then, they've been broken up again, and now apparently in Peter's perfect life, MJ isn't even the girl he's married to. It makes no sense to me. Either way, I do like this current run by Greg Weisman, but bringing Gwen Stacy back, even in a dream sequence, is really running a fine line. And it really doesn't help the idea that Peter is kind of stuck in tandem and in time, and that his character is refused to be brought forward. If you want to see more of my content here, you can watch my video on why freshman year possibly might be a mistake after the hype for Spider-Man 98. I also want to give a massive shout out to the members. You guys supporting the channel really does help me out. I do really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.